Connor here today at etrailer.com. We're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the W Companion OEM fifth wheel trailer hitch here for our 2019 GMC Sierra 3500. So this is what our fifth wheel hitch is going to look like installed. As you can see here, we have the slider version, which is more geared towards short bed trucks. However, if you have a long bed, there's a fixed option for that as well. So this particular companion hitch here is going to be designed for models with the OEM Prep Package. And what the OEM Prep Package is, it's a set of 4 pucks we have in the truck bed along with a center gooseneck. So as long as you have the OEM Prep Package, you're going to be able to utilize the OEM Companion hitch. As we can see here, it's going to give us a very clean finish install look because we're not going to have any rails sitting in the truck bed, which are a hassle and they take up some space, reducing the amount we can carry. They're also a little bit hard if we need to slide stuff in the bed. They're going to get caught on the rails and they're really a pain in the butt. But since we have the OEM Prep Package, we're going to be able to easily drop our hitch into these pucks here for a nice seamless installation. So if you've ever towed a fifth wheel trailer before, I'm sure you're familiar with B&W's brand. They are highly regarded as one of the best fifth wheel hitch manufacturers in the industry. And it's for good reason. The Companion here is an extremely durable and long-lasting fifth wheel hitch that offers great performance. It's one of my personal favorite fifth wheel hitches. And we'll go over why now. So one of the reasons I really like the B&W Companion is it is truly overbuilt. So it is pretty heavy, but everything on here is very solid steel. We're not going to have to worry about it breaking down and wearing over time. It is a very durable, well-made product, which you'll shortly realize as soon as you get your hands on it. So a couple more features that really help the B&W Companion stand out. Number one is going to be the jaw design. As we can see here, we have a dual jaw mechanism that are 1 inch thick each. Now basically what this does is we're going to have a much greater surface area and contact with the kingpin. So we're really going to be able to tightly grasp onto that kingpin. And what this does is it's going to ensure that there's not as much slop as there would be if we had a smaller set of jaws. So the ride is going to be much more comfortable. Our trailer is going to feel much more securely attached to our fifth wheel hitch here. So another feature of the B&W Companion that really helps it stand out is our cam action handle. Now, unlike most standard handles, we're going to have some issues when we try to uncouple our fifth wheel hitch on uneven terrain. But with this cam action handle here, we can uncouple our trailer on pretty much any terrain, no matter how uneven. Basically, the cam action mechanism is going to help with the amount of force it takes to open the jaws so we can release our fifth wheel. So as we mentioned earlier, one of the drawbacks of the B&W Companion, which some may view it as such, is it is heavy, so it does take a little bit more effort to get in and out of the truck bed. However, all of the B&W Companion hitches can actually be broken down into 2 parts to help save your back a little bit when you are getting it in and out of the truck bed. All we need to do this is simply remove the head, because it's going to be broken down into 2 pieces, the head and the base. And it's super simple to do this. Simply release the cotter pin here, remove the saddle pin, do this on both sides. Then we can come to the front of the hitch and we can lift up on both of these handles and we should be able to wiggle the head off from the base. We talked about the cam action handle allowing you to uncouple your trailer on uneven terrain. And another thing we'd like to touch on is the articulation of our hitch head. It rotates both back and forward and side to side. Now what this allows us to do is it gives us a little bit more margin when we're coupling the trailer. Therefore, the trailer doesn't have to be completely level to our tow vehicle in order to lock the jaws in place. So in regards to turning clearance with the short bed truck here, when we need to make a sharp turn here, we want to avoid our trailer from coming into contact with our cab, and that's what the slider feature is going to be built into our fifth wheel hitch. When we need to make a tight turn, we're going to go ahead and release the handle from the locked position here for the slider base to the unlocked position, and then we can pull forward, and that's going to move our entire assembly here back. And it should lock into position once we get far enough back. Then we can go ahead and make our turn, execute it completely, straighten back up the trailer. We can go ahead and relock the head in the towed position. So a few more things I would like to touch on. There are going to be some adjustments we have on the B&W. Some of them the other hitches don't have, and such is the offset of our jaws here. Now we have two options for this particular combo, and I'm not really sure of any other fifth wheel hitch that allows you to do this. But basically, it allows us to adjust the center line of the jaws in relation to our rear axle. So we can have them installed 1 inch in front of the rear axle or 3 inches in front of the rear axle. And basically what this does is, it gives us a little bit more turning clearance. It also has these standard height adjustments, 3 settings to be exact, that most other fifth wheel hitches have, that you'll most likely need to try out in order to get your trailer level. So last but not least, in regards to weight capacities, our B&W Companion here is going to have a 20,000 pound gross trailer weight rating and a 5,000 pound vertical load rating. So now that we have the base in the truck bed, the first step is to go ahead and take out these latch pins. There's going to be one on each of these 4 handles here. Simply pull out on this portion so we can remove the pin. And then we're going to rotate the handles away from the hitch like so. We need to do this on all 4 sides. So now with an extra set of hands, we can go ahead and pick our base up and set it into position into the pucks. We need to verify on all 4 corners here that the bottom part of the base of our fifth wheel hitch here is going to be flush to the top of the pucks in our truck bed. So as you can see there's no gap between the puck and the base on our fifth wheel hitch. We need to verify that on all 4 sides. We need to come to each of our handles here. We see the castle nut below and our cotter pin. Now we need to go ahead and remove this cotter pin because we need to adjust tension for our latch. In order to do this, we're going to take a set of pliers. We're going to be using a set of needle nose pliers. And we're going to grip that portion there where the bend is so we can straighten it out. Just like that. Now, we should be able to work the cotter pin the rest of the way out. We need to go ahead and do that on all 4 sides. So now that we have the cotter pins removed, we can go ahead and engage the handles, locking the hitch base to our pucks. Now they should spin freely and we should be able to tighten it without too much resistance. So we're going to go ahead and do that for each of these. If we find that there's too much resistance and we can't close the handle and lock it into place, we're going to simply take our hands here and we're just going to loosen that castle nut there. That should give us some more room so we can freely turn the handles to lock the pucks in place. So we're going to go ahead and test this on each 4 sides. So now that we've ensured that the latches can close on all 4 sides, what we need to do next is we need to go ahead and adjust the tension a little bit further. So right now they're all pretty loose. There's going to be some slop here, but we are able to lock each of our sides. So the thing we need to do now is we need a little bit of a tighter fit, more friction, but not too much that we can't close them. So what we're going to do is we're going to gradually tighten down our castle nut here. We should be able to do it by hand, but it would be a good idea to go ahead and creep a crescent wrench on you for this step as well. But we want to gradually tighten down our castle nut and then periodically check the friction on the handle. So again, we want it to be tight with a little bit of a force, but not so much so that we can't close the handle. So we're just going to keep repeating this process here until we get the right amount of tension. And then once we get one side done, we'll go ahead and repeat the same process on our others. So that actually feels pretty good right there. We have a good amount of friction, but we can feel the positive engagement. So we'll go ahead and repeat this process on the other sides. So now that we have the correct amount of tension on all 4 sides here, we're going to go ahead and reinstall our cotter pin here. I'm going to use a pair of needle nose pliers to help us with this. I'm Once we have that through, we'll go ahead and just bend this back to lock it in place. And finally, we can take our latch pin here and go ahead and reinsert that. And there we have it. We'll repeat the same process for all 4 sides. So the next thing we need to do is we need to go ahead and install our pivot arms. As you can see here, there's going to be 4 holes in each of our pivot arms, and there's going to be several sets of holes inside here on the base. Now, what this allows us to do is we have a couple different adjustments we can make with our pivot arm. The pivot arms, the first adjustment here is going to be the height setting. So basically, since we have different sets of bolt holes here, we can adjust the hitch head height by using these different sets. We could use the top set here to have the tallest hitch head height. We could go through the middle setting. We can even go to the lowermost setting here. So the reason you would want to adjust your hitch head height is because basically when we hook up our trailer, we want it to tow level. So we may need to make some adjustments to lower or raise the front end of our trailer so we can get it nice and level. Now keep in mind, there also may be some adjustments you can make to your pin box as well. But let's just go ahead and install one of these in the middle setting just for this demonstration. But before we install the pivot arms, there's one more adjustment we can make. And that's going to be the offset in regards to the rear axle. And what I mean by this is we have 2 different pivot arms here. One is labeled A, one is labeled B. Now we can install these on either side here, but doing so would change the offset of the hitch head and the coupler and the connection point. So basically, we have the option of installing it so the hitch head, or rather the connection point, sits 1 inch in front of our rear axle. Or we have the option of adjusting the pivot arms so the hitch head or coupler point sits 3 inches in front of our rear axle. So if we need a little bit more turning clearance with our truck and trailer combo, we'd want to install the pivot arms so that the hitch head sits 3 inches away from the axle. Whereas if we don't need that much turning clearance, we can go ahead and install it in the standard position to where it only sits 1 inch in front of the axle. The closer the connection point is to our rear axle, the better ride we're going to have. But we obviously need to be able to turn, so you need to go ahead and make that call now before you install the pivot arms. So in order to install the pivot arms, as we said, there's going to be 4 bolt holes here that are going to accept our 1/2 inch bolts with our 1/2 inch lock washers. So we'll just go ahead and thread these in now. Now we're going to take a 3/4 inch socket or a 19. We can go ahead and snug up these bolts. Now we're going to come back with our torque wrench and torque each of our 4 bolts on both sides to the value specified in our instructions. So now we're going to get a hitch head out and we're going to install the leveling mechanism. And we're going to take this spring here. You want to pay attention to the ends because they are different. This one is curled, whereas this one is sort of contoured outward. We're going to take this in with a contour. We're going to take our clip here. We're going to install it to where this flange here is going to mate up against that flat end there. Then we're going to take our 1/4 inch bolt here, slide it through the 2, mating the spring to the mounting clip. Then we'll take our 1/4 inch lock nut and thread that on the back. And that's how it should look. Now we're going to take an 11mm wrench and socket. We're going to go ahead and tighten this nut down here. We don't want it super tight, but we do want it snug to where we could just barely rotate the bracket. So there we have it snug and we can still rotate the clip there. So now we're going to install our leveling kit here. So we need to come over to the driver's side pivot arm and we're going to attach this like so to the back flange closest to the cab. And we need to go ahead and make a measurement before we hammer this on because we want a 1/2 inch between the bottom of our pivot bushing here and the top of the coil on our spring. That's about right where we need it. So now we can just take a hammer, being careful not to hit our fingers. We can just go ahead and tap this on. And there we go. So the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to take our handle here and we're going to install it onto our coupler head. In order to do that, we need to remove this clip here, pull down, and we can pull our pin out. Now we're going to go ahead and rotate the handle mechanism out away from its keeper. We'll insert our handle into place. Then we can take our Allen head screws here. We're going to insert these into the two holes closest to the head. We'll have a nut that goes on underneath. So now we go ahead and tighten these two bolts up here using a 14mm wrench and a 7/32 Allen head. So now we're ready to set our head onto the base. We're going to go ahead and close our handle here so it doesn't get in our way. And then we have these saddle pins on the side here. There's going to be a cotter pin on the back. Go ahead and remove that so we can slide these out. We're going to have one on either side here. But now we can go ahead and pick up our head and set it on the base. There we should hear it lock into place. So now we can go ahead and reinstall our saddle pins. And the final thing we can do is we can actually adjust the preset tilt of our head here, which is going to make it a little bit easier. We're trying to align our trailer to couple. In order to do this, we're going to use that leveling kit that we installed earlier, and basically we're just going to tilt it forward or backward depending on the amount of head tilt we need. And that's going to do it today for our look and installation of the B&W OEM Companion fifth wheel hitch here for our 2019 GMC Sierra 3500.